on opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Good afternoon, everybody. Feels nice to be able to navigate a Corimo for a hot minute. Some may know my arm has been in a sling recently, and it's quite an education to suddenly not have free and full use of one's dominant appendage. I recommend it sometime, just as a skip the injury if you can, but just to have an encounter with daily life not being quite so ordinary. It's good practice. Today, we're going to continue our conversation. I opened up the session with some teaching from a very important discourse of the Buddha when his child, Rahula, his son, sought to enter the Sangha and to ordain and to practice. When people critique the Buddha's historical life as it's come to be told to us, that's one of the reliable critiques. He left his wife and child, and there's critique to be made there, to be sure. However, they were well cared for in a royal environment. They lacked for nothing, save Dad. That's a lot. But in the end, at least the way the tradition tells it, both his then wife and his child Rahula sought to enter and practice in the Sangha, as did his stepmother and others. Kind of an interesting bit. And so when we take this at value as it's placed to us, and the Buddha is asked by his child to give teaching, I can relate. But also I think what a moment to face, to have this person that is your genetic relation, your genetic ancestor, but also spiritual. And how, what would the Buddha have to say? Isn't that curious? I'd like to know, what of all the things that the world-honored one, the great awakened, etc., what would that kind of person have to say to their child? Pretty interesting. And we have a sutta on it. It's called The Greater Discourse of Advice to His Son, Rahula. And it's part of our Ongo reading. Rahula, develop meditation that is like the earth. For when you develop meditation that is like the earth, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain there. Just as people throw clean things and dirty things, excrement, urine, spittle, pus, and blood on the earth. And the earth is not horrified, humiliated, or disgusted because of that. So too, Rahula, develop meditation that is like the earth. For when you develop meditation that is like the earth, arisen, agreeable, and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind, nor will they remain. This Ango, we're focusing very specifically, and for good reason, on very clear prajna samadhi practice. This basis of all insight and wisdom and compassion, actually. This ability to completely connect with your true life, with your true self, and to be in a way of being, to access a way of being that is not permanent, but that is transformative, and that is deeply nourishing, and in fact, dear one, is necessary. You don't get a whole lot of this is actually necessary kind of things in the Zen tradition. I mean, the obvious exceptions, sit this way, not that way, hands this way, not that way. Those are actually just, cultural, I could say. We have to have some way to navigate the space that facilitates. But there are a few hard line musts and must nots, and you do well to know them. And one of the musts is that right concentration is part of the Eightfold Path. Right? It's not an optional thing. It's not a throwaway. It's not a thing you can toy with and then be done with. This right concentration, this prajna samadhi, is a deep and thoroughgoing practice that one lifetime alone is simply not enough to plumb the depths of. So don't worry that you've come to the end of your investigations of prajna samadhi just because you had a pleasant enough morning. Our session didn't hurt at all for a minute. That was great. Must be prajna samadhi. So let's look at the Buddhist guidance here and the Buddhist teaching. Develop meditation that is like the earth. And this core quality of earth that Buddha is pointing out to us at this moment is this sort of non-disdaining, non-disgust, the non-rejection quality. Right? Now remember, well, let me just say it this way. When you think of earth, think of mountain. Okay? And the form that we take when we sit in Zazen is something like that. You have hopefully a tripod base. If you're lucky enough to have knees and everything that agrees, you can have, sits bones and two knees, the knees lower than the sits bones, and that makes a very stable tripod. And if you can't do it in the cushion, then you can do it just fine sitting in a chair. Okay? If you're amputated, above the knees, you can still do it energetically. There's always ways to do these things. But if you're lucky enough to have a body that is comfortable enough to sit on the floor for a while, do so. There's a reason why. Now, if you think about a mountain, how did the mountain come to be? A mountain is not there because of an erosion process, as far as I know. It's not like the Grand Canyon, and what's left is the mountain. Rather, deep, unseen forces, the tectonic plates, they collide at like a centimeter a year or something, but they, in fact, have a very slow motion, but an actual collision. And then what happens sometimes is the one plate goes underneath the other. That doesn't make a mountain. Right? Sometimes they both go down. That doesn't make a mountain. A mountain is when this happens. They collide, yeah? And then the energy ends up going this way, like a gasho. And the power is going up, huh? And so you see the basis of this gasho, this point, is supported by the basic root of this and this meeting and up. So the spine of the mountain is a massive gasho. And it's that spine along which hangs everything else. Everything is supported by that underneath root structure that stands tall. Do you see it in your mind's eye? This is the basis of the earth's reception power. You've got this underneath power that's generating this very strong support for the spine. And from the spine, dear one, hangs everything. The skull, the bones, everything is there, supported by the spine's upward movement, upward stability, and then the muscles and the tendons and the sinews and the fat and everything else hanging off that. When you can realize this in your own body, when you can sit there as mountain, letting your spine really be a spine, and letting the furnace underneath actually do its work. And that's the breath. You learn how to bring the breath to the correct place in the body. You learn how to harness that power correctly and have support to the spine. You're sitting truly as mountain. Zen is a physical body practice. It's not a series of cool syllogisms and neat thoughts and bumper sticker worthy phrases. It's something that you realize on the cellular level of your body. So when Buddha is saying, let your meditation be like the earth, he's not saying sit there and write cool earth-oriented poetry. I mean, that's fun to do, maybe, if you're good at it. But that's not going to do it. And it's not actually thinking about it as a pure simile, in my view. It's not just a nice, cute analogy with a thought for the day. It's actually practice instructions. Huh? It's practice instruction. It's giving us guidance on how to actually practice, you see. He doesn't spell out the mountain, but it's there. But he doesn't stop with that. He continues on. Hula, that's his son. Develop meditation that is like water. For when you develop meditation that is like water, arisen, agreeable, and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. These agreeable and disagreeable contacts, let's not just glide past that. What is that talking about? Contacts. What's this contact thing he's talking about? In Buddhist thought and the Buddhist teaching, you have, in order for an experience to exist, in the way that we normatively think of existence as being, there has to be an object of perception, and there has to be an organ of perception which is capable of perceiving that object. So if there's a sound, we can say that that's the object of perception, and then the ear and the hearing is the organ that can perceive the hearing. And then significantly, there's a consciousness. You could say there's a sound consciousness or an ear consciousness. And when you have that, let us say, ear consciousness or hearing consciousness meets with the organ of perception and an object of perception, when those three connect, then boom, there's experience, there's contact has happened. This happens through a familiar to you list, I hope. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. each of those are organs of perception in the framework that the Buddha used to teach and to help. So when the Buddha is talking about agreeable and disagreeable contexts, he's talking about agreeable and disagreeable, let us say, sounds, agreeable and disagreeable sights, agreeable and disagreeable smells, everything from incense to the opposite. Now think of it, if for some, let us say, reason a person was born with absolutely no olfactory capacities, I'd never heard of that, but I suppose it can happen, why not? Then for that sentient being, there would be no nose consciousness, because maybe consciousness is there and the object of perception is there, but the organ is not functioning. Or let us say that you've got a healthy smeller going, and you've got consciousness to boot, good for you, but there's nothing really to smell. There's no contact going to be happening. It's when the three meet. See? Eye, ear, nose, tongue, the first to taste, the sweet and the sour, pungent, all the different flavors, right? Body. Now, body is kind of a big, broad basket. It means, you could say skin contact, skin perceptions. But really, it's everything from the pressure you can feel on your body as gravity is having its way with you, to the aches and pains of, I don't know, a hurt elbow or whatever else, including happy and pleasant sensations, right? The wonderful feeling of the cool fall breeze on your skin. Okay, so there's delights and terrors at every turn. But what makes it work, right? Object of perception, touch. Organ of perception, skin that's functioning and healthy, and consciousness, right? And then last is mind. Now this one for a lot of people goes unnoticed. Many people can kind of relate to the more blatant, coarse ones. But mind itself, in this way of teaching and talking about things, and I'm sure there are others, but in the way that the Buddha described it, which is relevant for us, then mind itself is actually an organ of perception, like your ear and your nose and your tongue. Mind perceives mind objects. What is a mind object? Think of a pink elephant. You have encountered a mind object. Ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, bum. A pink elephant, or panther perhaps. So those are very real. Those are just as real as holding your hand too close to the candle flame for too long. That's real. Having the thought, those people aren't even human, let's wipe them out. And they've got nice stuff, let's take it. That's a real thought too, right? Their creed is not aligned with the true truth of the Almighty. And the Almighty has bid us slay them all and take their stuff. That's a pink elephant. It's mind, object of mind, and consciousness. Very real. Think that's not real? It's very real. Think about money. Is there anything real about money? No and yes. Does that make sense? So when you're sitting there in sesshin, in zazen, you will have pleasant and perhaps occasionally unpleasant contacts. Now, a lot of us, when we start sitting, it's a kind of a physical thing. Not everybody, but a lot of folks, just the acclimating to the deal, just to be able to sit at all and to be still, very challenging, I work with some of the undergrads in a mindfulness kind of oriented class, and watching a young 18-year-old try to sit still when they have no real interest in doing so is quite entertaining. I mean, somehow they're able to run marathons while they're sitting there. I don't know how they do that so long, but they do. They just sit there and it's like, geez, they're burning calories. I'm burning calories watching them. What the hell? It's getting me exhausted. Would you take your settling down to the next level there, Junior? But it takes time to acclimate to that and for your body to agree and to get acclimated. But maybe more challenging than that is actually letting your mind settle down, right? And notice what the Buddhist says. Let's go back to our water analogy, teaching rather. But develop meditation that is like water. For when you develop meditation that is like water, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. See, it's not that you go into a blackout. You're not trying to play whack-a-mole with your sense experience or the fact that you have a wonderful mind. Your mind is as amazing, believe it or not. Your mind is as amazing as your skin to be able to sense your environment and to feel. There's nothing wrong with the mind, right? It's the way that we wield it or that it wields us. That's where the problems come in. See, if we have an agreeable contact, and then we and then we become invaded by that agreeable contact, and it infests, and it sets up camp, and it seeks to expand its territory. That was nice. I want more of that. And can we ramp it up next time? Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, that wasn't as nice as it was before. Let's got to make it more intense. Let's double down here, And this whole hamster wheel starts to play out. And you know what? You're not even aware it's going on at any kind of conscious level. It's actually not even fair to say, I would say, that you're really even choosing that. It's just kind of an algorithm that starts running itself, right? Don't give yourself that much blame or credit, honestly. There's not that much you can do if you're just kind of bouncing around in the world with your senses all on fire for pleasure and all scared to death of pain, or if you're wired differently, you're on fire for pain. It happens, believe it or not. You don't trust pleasure. Let me feel something real. It can go all kinds of ways. We're complicated creatures. No, not that complicated. But the Buddha is saying, no. We're not trying to shut it off. That had been tried elsewhere. He studied in spiritual traditions with teachers that said, look, it's all a game, just leave it all behind and just practice asceticism. Or just go into the formless and hide. Leave the world to its own fire. Be done with it. And this is not sufficient. This is not enlightenment at all. Even those who encountered the formless, to encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. It doesn't reach it. Not by itself. So water, right? These agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. Just as people wash clean things and dirty things, and the water is not horrified, humiliated, or disgusted because of that, so too, Rahula, develop meditation that is like water. For when you develop meditation that is like water, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. So when you're sitting there, let us say now your meditation is like water. Water has a different quality to it than earth. There's a different thing about it. And again, there's kind of the obvious and maybe the not so obvious, right? Earth, we talked about that the fuel of the earth, the mountain, is that underneath, right? Water has a great deal, you think of water as just kind of settling to the lowest level and hanging there, and that's possible, obviously. But the thing that you don't think about necessarily right away with water is a wave. Okay, so water, when you bring movement to it, water rises up. It goes up, right? The movement comes and it starts to cascade upwards. I'll use the other arm. It cascades upwards this way. A disagreeable contact happened there. So this, right, the stillness, right? And then energy comes in and the water goes, ooh, and it starts to go up. And that's what a wave is doing. So movement, right? Very, very powerful. Mountain doesn't move around a hell of a lot. There is that business about making mountains walk, I know. But in general, if you take a mountain on its own terms, it's pretty stable, right? Water's not stable. It receives everything, but it has immense power, right? This wave, right? So Buddha is encouraging his practitioner son, you must not only be stable, you also must be powerful, while not rejecting or clinging. You see, everything that comes into the water, okay, fine. But the water is still doing water practice, undeterred. Imagine something a little icky goes into the water and the water parts. Oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. Or if it finds something it likes in the water, it freezes around it to hold it. Mine. Dude. Open your fist. Open the fist of your mind. Let that power of flow happen. Water is power and is knowing how to navigate the changes of things. Mountain is relentlessly stable, unshakably stable, even when it's shaking. Strong spine, strong base. That's mountain practice. Water practice flows. But both, interestingly, neither cling nor disdain anything. Buddha continues, Rahula, further, develop meditation that is like fire. For when you develop meditation that is like fire, arisen, agreeable, and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. Just as people burn both clean and dirty things, and the fire is not horrified, humiliated, and disgusted, so shall you be when your mind is like fire. Now, fire, interestingly, we think of fire like maybe the flame on the candle, right? You think of it as being vertical. There's the flame, it goes up. But interestingly, like the motive power of water is to stand up and move. The motive power of fire is to get low and crawl. What? What is that? Well, think about it. Like if you imagine like a pool of gas, say gas is spilled on the ground, and it catches fire and it goes like a snake, right? It travels low and it finds fuel. Oh, okay, and then the flames go up. But the fire itself is burning fuel, yeah? And it does that low. So those many places of practice out on the West Coast were sending up red flags and flares about the fires that are now more and more common there with the forestation issues and the climate change issues and so on. And did you see the news how fast that fire spread? Like a mile a minute or some shit? I mean, oh my God, can you imagine that? And it's not gasoline, it's just, tinder, basically. And that fire is going, and it's using everything as fuel. This is the positive quality of fire, mind, right? The firebenders. But see, fire can use everything as fuel. Agreeable contact, fuel. Disagreeable contact, fuel. You can use everything. You can practice fully every moment. You can use every moment of your life as full contact fuel of your own Buddhahood. See, what would it be like if you could take disagreeable situations and actually use them as fuel for compassion, by the way, for awakening? This is the quality of fire. And think about how many spiritual teachings and traditions wind themselves around somehow stacking the deck to pleasure and away from pain. Like that's the point. If you do the right observances or do the right rituals and pray to the right deities, however you figure that out, then you'll be protected from the pain and guaranteeing pleasure, and if not in this life, well, for sure in the next one. Buddha's not teaching anything like that. Not really. The Pure Land is here, right now. If you can see it, when you see it, not if, when. I had to go, this elbow thing, right? It's just, fuel for my fire. But, I had to go and do an MRI, and if any of you have done that, you lay on your back and they scoot you in and the thing goes bing, 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 and it makes all these space-age noises at you. It's okay, you're comfortable, you just lay there, But not mine, oh no. Mine, lucky me, the techs are freaking out, oh, this is a hard MRI. Like, what is that? I mean, I don't have to, is this an old machine or something? What's the problem? I had to go on my belly down and like kind of like Superman, like get this thing and kind of, okay, now don't move, what? Pillow in my face, I can barely breathe. Okay, don't move, right? Okay, wow. By the way, don't breathe, and it'll be about 20 minutes. It's like that. But interestingly, if I suddenly went, okay, I'm out, and lifted up, that would be a problem. So fuel, good practice, really good practice. I'm in the midst of this really miraculous medical intervention to see what's going on with like my elbow. It's kind of astonishing that we can even do that, right? But still, it kind of sucks when you're dealing with it. So the fact of being able to have an informed diagnosis, fuel for practice. The fact of the uncomfortable and maybe a little bit claustrophobic leaning moment or 2 or 20 in that thing, also fuel for practice. Because fire can use everything as fuel and is happy to do so. And so should we be. Don't resent the world for being the world. Why would you do that? It's not helping. Instead, if you have contact with unpleasant political narratives, perhaps, use it as fuel. But the fire's equanimity is never in question. Neither is the waters, neither is the mountain. That's the same. Hula develop meditation that is like air. For when you develop meditation that is like air, arisen, agreeable, and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain, just as the air moves past and blows on clean and dirty things alike. The air is not horrified, humiliated, disgusted. If you think about air, it's the space around which things occur. It's like sky. Well, I use that big sky mind phrase quite a bit. The sky is not hindered by any weather pattern. The sky is completely, fully manifesting the sky. Whether there's a tornado or a gentle fall breeze, sky is skying powerfully. You see, this kind of meditation, this kind of mind is very powerful. It's like owning the turf. You're always on your home team. It's always in the home court. Think about the experience when you're sitting in Zazen and a negative formation is in contact with you somehow or other. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can imagine someone else. It's a stupid koan anyway. I don't like that one. Or whatever it is. You could be suddenly, pillaged by a great wave of regret from your 30-year-old self. I don't know. But think about it, when that takes over, when that does invade, right, when it remains, it sets up shop, and your world becomes very small. Very, very goddamn small. Your entire world is wrapped around this, bout of self-loathing. Let's just pick one. Talk about small. And when you're in that experience, that's all that you are sensing. That's all that you're experiencing. And each of these analogies is talking about, these ways of practicing is talking about relating to that contact in a little fuller way. Mountain. And this, water balloon of self-doubt gets thrown at you by yourself. And it splashes. Oh no! Oh, my rocks! I knew it! Or just let it absorb and go through. Mountain and receives rain. And the more you fight the water balloon filled of self-disgust, the bigger it gets. Right? That's how it works. Just don't mind it. Literally, don't mind it. Don't play with it. Don't play with the damn toys anymore. Put down the toys. They're not helping. You know they're not helping. Instead, realize water mind. Be vast, like the ocean. A vast ocean. And when the ocean moves, you better watch out. It moves. Be like fire. Use it. Take it as fuel. There's that old demon dangling the temptation again, or the evil threat, or whatever it is. It's now fuel. It's your ally. It becomes a resource for your awesomeness now, for your Buddhahood, for your awakening, for your compassion. I take my injury as a source of fuel for my deeper encounter with the human experience. And it is that. And what happens when I have a more full contact, authentic experience with my human life? My Buddhahood is even more able to be an expression of truth. Air, right? Surrounded. You are the context in which all this is occurring. Don't mind it. Simply let it be. The ones that are actually harder to deal with for most people are not really the negative ones. They get all the airplay because they hurt, and we generally, most people, most of the time, don't like pain. There are exceptions to the rule there, but in general, that's the one that it stands out because it hurts. You know, you stub your toe, your world becomes very small very quick because it hurts, you know. The Nobel laureate acclaiming to this great moment, stubs their toe. Oh! Where'd the Nobel go? Well, in that moment, we can have that conversation, I suppose. But really, to be able to allow things to be what they are, and to allow yourself to be what you are, unperturbed, undiminished. You're not pretending it's not happening. You're not ducking out. You're not disassociating. Don't do that shit. But the one that's really tricky is the ones that are pleasurable. Those are the ones that really, we like those hooks, thank you, because they feel good. Yeah, go ahead, hook right in. I like that one. This identity, this experience, this capacity, you know. Perhaps you have a facile mind in some way, and it feels good to use it, and that's great. Just don't make a thing out of it. It's partial. If you try to reify it and deify it, world of pain. So it's not just the disagreeable contacts, it's also the agreeable contacts. You know, obviously, hopefully, this harkens to the poisons, the three poisons, right? Typically voiced in English as greed, anger, and ignorance. But if you blow it up to its most extreme, that greed is like obsession. This clinging obsession, addictive kind of have to, you know, this kind of completely drawn in thing where you're in the clasp of this, which you think of or experiencing as a pleasurable thing, perhaps. Or hatred. It's not just anger, really. Buddha got pissed. We have records. But hatred, no. The extreme pushing away. So whether it's extreme trying to cling to and draw in or extreme pushing away, it's two sides of the same disease, really. And whether you go full mountain, deep ocean, broad reaching fire, or air itself, or maybe all at once. Very different. And last, and very importantly, Rahula developed meditation that is like space. For when you develop meditation that is like space, arisen, agreeable, and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. Just as space is not established anywhere, So too, Rahula, develop meditation that is like space. For when you develop meditation that is like space, arisen agreeable and disagreeable contacts will not invade your mind and remain. It's a very strange and paradoxical and somewhat vexing teaching that says rely on nothing. Rely on no situation. Rely on no one. Why? Because nothing is truly established. Don't even rely on your self, small self. Instead, rely on what? Nothing. You can trust the nothing. you can guaranteed, right? Your true nature itself. Sometimes we use the word emptiness. Sometimes we use the word Buddha nature. There's no self there. What are you clinging to? Cut it out. Quit. Just quit. But me, after all. Oh, okay. Go sit some more then, after all. But really, when you can see the non-establishedness of things, the non-establishedness of contacts, the non-substantiality of that unwelcome and unpleasant sense contact, the ache in the arm. That's about as concrete and real a thing as you'll experience. I mean, pain is pretty clear. But I tell you, if you have some pain in the body, and I'm talking a physical one now, if you, instead of flinching against and wincing the pain, which actually reifies it and reinforces it, try being still. Maybe you're lucky. Maybe you've got a chronic pain in your body somewhere you can practice this with. Good for you. If not, we can work on it. We can get you connected. But if you have a chronic pain, like I do, as well as an acute one now, thank you, be still, and instead of flinching away from that pain, let's say pain in the knee, right? If you get very, very still and you let your mind go completely in contact with that pain, like go right to it. Don't flinch away from it. Go right in at it. Land on that pain. Feel it. And then let your mind penetrate it. Go inside that knot, that Gordian knot of ouch. Go right inside it. And what you find is you can actually go inside the sensation of pain and go in there and be still. And then the pain starts to open. You start to find that actually this pain that seemed at first blush as this hammer solid agony, if you actually go in there, there's actually a lot of space around it. It's true. And you can go so far into that you can actually dissolve and suspend and at least change your way of relating to that pain. And by the way, it's not just physical pain. That stupid story you keep running over and over again and have for some decades now, that's a knot. It's just the Gordian knot of mind. It's conditioning. It's karmic habit energy. And that shit is wound up tight. But you don't have to run from it. And you don't have to pretend it's not there. Get still. Let yourself contact it. And let your mind seep into it, and you'll find that there's space there. It's very much like You look at the night sky and think there's a solid star, but we know it's not. You take a look at Hubble or the Webb telescope, and it's not only not a star, it's a massive galaxy. And there's all kinds of stars there, and there's all kinds of space between them, and there's room. So these teachings that the Buddha is giving his child, what would be the most prescient thing for Buddha to bring to his child? This is the tools he sought to give. Isn't that interesting? What would it be like if we understood earth mind and water mind and fire mind and air mind and Buddha mind? Not as intellectual speculations, but as physically embodied fact. I'll conclude with a little bit from the Lankavatara Sutra. This, the sutra that Bodhidharma is said to have brought with him from India up into China. Then said Mahamati to the Blessed One, why is it that the ignorant are given up to discrimination and the wise are not? Why is it that those who suffer are given up to dualistic thinking and the shining ones are not? The Blessed One replied, it is because the ignorant cling to names, signs, and ideas. Their minds move along these channels as they feed on multiplicities of objects and fall into the notion of an ego soul and what belongs to it. They make discriminations of good and bad among appearances and cling to the agreeable. And they thus cling, as they thus cling, there is a reversion to ignorance, and karma, born of greed, anger, and folly, is thereby accumulated. As the accumulation of karma goes on and on, they become imprisoned in a cocoon of discrimination and are thenceforth unable to free themselves from the round of birth and death. Dear one, you are confronting the cocoon that you have built for yourself. And because you've built it for yourself, you can unwind it. But no one can do this for you. So please, take it up. Take on this practice. All of this is pointing to prajna samadhi. And the best that words can do, even live words, is point you back to yourself. But you are Buddha. You must realize this truth in your own experience. Wherever would you go to do such a thing? I know, the Zendo. May it be so.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it.
I'm aware that the talk went over a little bit, but I would like to encourage whoever's running the extended outside Kenyan to make sure that Sangha has a full experience. It's really gorgeous out right now, and to take the Dharma and go for a little walk with it is good practice. So please don't cut that short.